Hello and welcome to another episode of the Almond View podcast. I am your host, Jake Pointer, and joining me tonight is Mr. Opinions. It's your Owen Innes.
Everyone has just immediately taken a sigh and switched this thing off.
No. Tonight, we are going to quickly discuss the Rangers game at the Tony Mac a couple of weeks ago, and then move on to the disappointing result against the sheepy losers Aberdeen up at Pittodrie on Saturday, and discuss our upcoming fixture against the Cabbage Men of Hibs this weekend. On a lighter note, the ladies are back to winning ways after a 2-1 victory over Drybrugh on Sunday, and lastly, Owen and I will go head to head in another game of Livy Guess Who. So, hope you absolutely hated your Almond View free week last week. But we are back in full flow this evening to send all the Livingston content down your ear holes. So, please sit back, get your feet up, and get ready for Owen to verbally hand the full men's squad their P45s with us here at the Almond View podcast. So, a couple of weeks ago, the Lions lost 3-0 to Rangers at the Tony Mac. Overall, wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was a 3-0 game by all means. Owen, let's quickly kind of run through it before we move on to the shite show up in Aberdeen. Give us your thoughts generally on the Rangers game. I think I saw the game. My last VAR performance before Liam comes back. Like I said in just the intro there, I don't think was a 3-0 kind of game. What do you think?
No, I mean, so little caveat just for everybody before we start get going here. I haven't made any of the last two fixtures, so I'm basing this purely just on highlights and from reading the papers and reading the analysis. So, having quickly watched through the highlights again, there's obviously four major points in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The first major point is, of course, the penalty, which I agree with it being given, but I also disagree with it being given because Morelos was getting nowhere near the ball anyway. Ayo had already cleared the ball. There is no way that the way that Morelos was jumping, that Morelos would have magically appeared in front of Ayo in order to win the ball. But pulling of the jersey in the box is now being picked up quite a lot on the VAR. So I agree with it, because it's that's what VAR is there for. Good penalty. Shamal, I think if Shamal had gone the right way, I reckon he probably could have saved it. And that's not a slight on Shamal whatsoever. I just think it was, it was a well taken penalty, but it could have been saved. Had he gone the right way. The next flashpoint, so the next point number 2 of the 4, is the Omiyonga sending off. It's not even a foul. It's not even a yellow card. The Roof has bought that foul. You can see him in the highlights looking straight at Omiyonga. He knows he's coming in. He knows he's on a yellow card. Boom, down he goes, right on the edge of the box. And Omiyonga gets a yellow card for it. As soon as Roof went down, though, and as soon as the referee blew the whistle, Omiyonga knew he was off. Point number 3, the free kick. You will not see a better taken free kick this season, I don't think. That was an absolute perler. Not a goalkeeper in the world was getting to that free kick. So, all fairness, although I don't think it should have been a free kick, that's what teams are supposed to do. I mean, if that was us in that position, we get a free kick that we shouldn't have got, and we end up, going 2-0 up and a man down, whatever. You've got to stand up and applaud that free kick. Just brilliant. And then the fourth one is, of course, the third goal. We're down to 10 men. We're trying to pack out the box, but also trying to leave ourselves with an out ball. So we've left ourselves a little bit short at the back, and we get punished. So, in terms of, a 3-0 game, it's probably a deserved penalty. Free kick that shouldn't have been given, but very well taken when it did come. being down to 10 men probably caused us to lose the third goal. But on a slightly more positive note, it sounded as though we were very much in the game. Penrice had a good chance at the back post. Unlucky that I think he was trying to get his left foot onto it as opposed to just sticking out his right foot. It's just when players aren't comfortable on their weaker foot. That's fair. The Stephen Kelly opportunity, I think it was one of those that came to him. He didn't realise exactly how much time that he had until you look back on it. You see that how much time he has. He could have taken a touch, maybe even fired one. That might not have gone in, but a shot on target against Rangers, easy enough. And really, apart from that, I don't really think that Shamal had very much else to do, apart from there was a one-on-one with Ryan Kent that he expertly saved, getting the plaudits on the radio at the time. I remember when I was listening to it, but yeah, for me that sums up the game. As you said, Jake, it most definitely wasn't a 3-0 game, but it's Rangers. It's one of those free hit games for us that, if we get something for it, it's a major bonus, as opposed to it being us playing terribly and getting beat 3-0. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. Penalty was really soft, but I actually do agree with you. I think that's what VAR is there for, is to kind of back up what Thomas has said so much. It's the inconsistency. It's like you've seen loads of them not being given, and then they have been given, and just so happens, and it's in a big game like Rangers, and yeah, fair enough. Put it away nicely. But then we did come into the game a lot more. We did have a good chance. He didn't mention the Stephen Kelly chance at the back post, where he tried to kind of smash it top corner. Maybe could have done slightly better. It's difficult in that kind of situation. But the 1-1 was on. We were playing all right. We could have brought it back to 1-1. I think it would have been a very different game at 1-1. Maybe we would have sat in a bit more. We would have maybe changed formation a little bit, and then as soon as that 2-0 went in, I think it was quite clear that we weren't kind of coming back from that. So I've got to say, very harsh sending off. You see when he comes across him, Omyonga does pull out, and you can see Roof flicks his leg out in that kind of way, so he totally eggs it. So I don't know. It's a weird one. Omyonga's in that position. Maybe seen it with Livy glasses on a wee bit. It was. He did kind of come across him. I don't know, but I don't think it definitely wasn't a sending off for me, just with the way he egged it. So overall, yeah, I agree with what you said. A defeat against a good side. A difficult situation, but also Tav, I know he scored a good goal, but he's an absolute wanker. I think remember about his refusing to play the headphones for a Rangers mascot, even though Nicky Devlin did. So, and that was that's not us kind of saying anything. That was released by part of the club as well. So yeah. So he can score a free kick, but he's an absolute wanker. So so I'm taking a few free kick points away from him for just being.
He's just got one of those faces, doesn't he? He's just got one of those faces of like, no, I'm not putting on a pair of ear defenders, for one of the fans that is, paid money, very good money. A Rangers fan, with autism and things like that, bringing awareness to it. But no, I'm not going to wear a pair of earphones because I'll look stupid. It'll mess up my hair. Ooh.
Yeah,
Fanny.
Okay,
but let's just remember and say Nicky Devlin, absolute fucking hero. Yeah, because he did wear the ear defenders.
Okay, so we'll move over to the kind of disappointing result up in Aberdeen against those sheepy losers. Unfortunately, Livingston did come away with a 1-0 defeat, with a goal just coming just before half-time. Owen, in general, Pittodrie's a difficult place to go. I know, albeit that, they're not performing that well at the moment. Overall, would you say that you're kind of disappointed by the performance, or do you think it's just one of those days?
Probably more likely to be one of those days for us where just nothing went right, really. Like the goal that we lost was preventable. Like just pushing out that little bit more, try to defend that ball coming into the box in the first place, but not really dealing with the first ball that came into the box. Miovski just gets just that little bit. It's like not even half a yard. What's half of a 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 yard? Gets just that tiny look, a smidge, a ball hair, a tiny wee fucking nugget of space, and he manages to put one in the back of the net. Nibley had a decent chance, but really apart from that, there didn't seem to be very much. It wasn't necessarily, again, I'm only basing this from the highlights, but didn't really seem to be much of a fight for us to get forward. That's probably the most disappointing part. Going all the way up to Pittodrie against possibly the worst Aberdeen team in, I don't know, maybe like a decade, 2 decades. I don't really know very much about Aberdeen, but they're always there or thereabouts. And they go up there and not even really test their goalkeeper is a little bit poor, maybe even a little bit concerning at this kind of stage in the season when we have been playing so well.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And then I don't know. I think like even if they are playing not that well, they have kind of got a new guy in charge at the moment. They are looking like they're going to surge themselves up a bit. So, but as you said, overall, did look quite a kind of a boring afternoon for both teams. So I know we've spoken about this a fair bit, but I mean, what's Morgan Boy's done? Not to start. I feel like we performed really well with him with Fitz. He was creating chances. Yeah, he's obviously got kind of moments where he was a bit, maybe slightly dodgy, but I mean, nothing worth being dropped for. What do you think? What do you think's going on? Because personally, I don't really rate Iowa at the moment. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. But what was that statistic that Mr. Jordan Rind getting name checked on almost every episode these days? What was the statistic that he put up about Io the other day? Like, we haven't won a match with Io in the starting lineup since like October. Was it like October or something like that? There was a pretty like strange statistic. Now that's obviously not saying that Io is the reason why we are losing games. But it was just an interesting statistic.
Yeah.
I really like Boys. He's a little bit questionable in the air, which is fair enough. I do prefer that right-sided, on the right-hand side of central defence, a right-footed player, and on the left-hand side, a left-footed player. Like, playing Football Manager, that's me all over. I have to have a left-footed centre-back. And I'm so glad that obviously the recent Daily Record rumours that there's the potential signing of a nephew of a former Livingston player. If you don't know who it is, go and check out the article instead of me fucking telling you. Who's a left-footed centre back. So, but anyway, yeah, I don't know what Boys has done. I genuinely don't know what Boys has done. Considering the fact that Iowa's been really in and out of the team this year as well. Just in general, has kind of been like hooked at halftime against Celtic and things like that. So, yeah, Boys is, for me, it's Fitzwater and Boys between now, because we know that Fitzwater's staying. I think this is my first episode since after the transfer window. So now that we know that Fitzwater is staying until the end of the season, Fitzy and Boys for the rest of the season for me. It's a no-brainer for me. Yeah. Or even Io and Boys for maybe the last few games of the season, because Io and Boys are going to be here next season playing. That would make sense. But yeah. I think over the last kind of couple of months or so, Fitzwater and Boys are our strongest centre back pairing. We seem to play well when Boys is in the team. So I really don't know. I don't know it myself.
It must have been something to do with fitness or something. It's not been publicised. I can't imagine it had been performance. So there must be something we don't know about, but we'll speculate anyway. Okay, so general play on Saturday looked like Aberdeen, especially from the first half, had kind of the better the chances, and kind of goal seemed like another situation of us, not really looking after the 6 yard box, something that Davey batters on about a lot and has done this season naturally. You kind of mentioned it already, but do you think could Ayo have done better there? I actually can't tell if it comes off Ayo's head or the Aberdeen player's head for an assist. I'm not sure, but it was seems like he just wasn't in the quite right position to be in front of the player to clear. So think he could have done better, or just
I
better good play
think
from Aberdeen.
so. I think Ayo kind of heads it. It almost seems to. I think he tries to head it out, whereas instead he actually heads it across goal. But when there's that many players going and challenging in the boxes, and certainly because I think Aberdeen have got like 6 players in our box at that particular point or something. I mean, you can always look back at these things after the fact. Could Iowa have done better? Yeah, probably. But I mean, if it was Devlin, would be saying, could Devlin have done better? If it was, if it was Boys, could Boys have done better? But the difference is perhaps with Boys, you would maybe say, well, he's only 21, 22. So he's still a young player, so he, maybe a bit inexperienced on what to do with the ball. But yeah, could I have done better? I just think in general that it could have been defended right the way back to the original phase of play where the ball's in the box. And again, this is the original phase of play from the highlights that I've seen. So originally the ball's in the box, it then makes its way out to the wide area before it then gets crossed back in, before then the header which leads to the goal. So I just think that whole thing could have just been done a whole lot better, in my opinion. Don't think it's quite necessary to blame Ayo unless Ayo was literally like, "Hear me, Ovsky," and heads the ball literally to him, like on purpose. You know what I mean?
Like that,
could also be like almost a lack of match fitness for Ayo, considering that he's again not really he's been in and out the side, so. But yeah, I don't think we can really dwell too much on that. But I think defensively, it needs to be stronger. It's actually quite similar to Roof's goal, the third goal against Rangers. Quite similar to that. It's a bit of a stramash in the box. And no,
doesn't fall for us. Yeah, I know, one of these things. Aye. So we made a couple of strange decisions at halftime. I know the boys in the group chat were kind of talking about it. Obviously, I've only kind of seen it from the highlights too. So they took off Bradley and Kelly and brought on Boys and Holt, even though we have been kind of shouting for Boys to play. I didn't expect them to be playing in a back three. And I've changed for that change to happen at half time to a back three when we're 1-0 down, bringing off one of our most creative players and our best deliveries of the ball. Obviously, I didn't see the first half, and Davies obviously had a thought in his mind. Quite odd.
Quite an odd decision to make at half time. Basing purely on highlights, it's quite difficult, I think, to judge from obviously what Davies saying. I mean, you've got to really trust in Davies management because he's the manager. That's why we're the virgins sitting on a Tuesday night talking to each other, as opposed to being the manager of a professional football club. So Davies obviously seen something in the game. I just find it was a little bit strange to make that change so early on, and quite a distinctive tactical change as well. First of all, yes, you don't want to go down to 2-0. You don't want to lose the next goal. You want to score the next goal. So if you want to score the next goal, keep on your creative players, but maybe put on a slightly more creative midfielder, i.e. putting on Jason Holt. That makes sense. But then taking off Stephen Bradley and effectively go into like a 4. I mean, it must have been like a 5-4-1 or something like that, with Newbley playing somewhere in that stramash of numbers. Yeah, it was a very, very strange decision to make so early. Like, at least maybe give it 5 minutes into the second half. Maybe make the midfield change, bring on Holt, and give that a little bit more of a bite in the midfield. But I think then making a defensive change, to me, didn't really make much sense. But again, I couldn't tell you what was happening actually on the field, so I found it very strange. But there must have been a reason for it.
Yeah. And going from what the boys said, that I don't think it made much difference, and
Well, it
especially
certainly
not to
seemed
any
to
sort of
limit
creativity that we needed.
our attacking movement, because we, as far as I know, didn't even have a shot on target. I could be wrong, but
The
yeah,
Newbley one was in the second half, so we
created our best chance, but it wasn't on target.
Limited, and well, it was cleared off the line. Is that not on target?
I don't know. Do you know what? We'll need to look at the old. Let's get all. Let's really annoy Liam on this episode, and let me go and get the statistics. Okay, no, sorry, it was included as a non-target shot. It was included as on target. So yeah, okay. I get it. Yeah. Okay, I'll retract what I just said.
So yeah, thank you. But that was the best chance that it did come from Newbley, and it was clear off the line. But see, when I always find that when you create your best chance, it is something like it beats the keeper, but doesn't beat the kind of last defender. You kind of have a feeling that it was going to be Aberdeen's day after that.
Yeah.
I'd say when
it was again, it's just like having flashbacks almost of. I mean, it's a slightly different scenario, but Easter Road, Christmas Eve, Jason Holt gets sent off. You're just like, right, fuck it, let's just go home. And you guys near enough did. You know what I mean? You just knew it wasn't going to be your day, going down to 10 men, and then Baham Bula getting hooked, the only player that seemed to be trying in the immediate aftermath of the red card, and then you're just like, what? Oh god, this is just we're. Yeah, I think if we could have got, I think a draw, and this is just obviously from what Martindale was saying, I think a draw would have been a fair result, but not necessarily a fair result on the paying public, because from certainly from what I hear, the game just dragged on until the final whistle blew, really. So
yeah, definitely. From even just looking at any sort of match updates and things like that, it did look pretty painful, and the boys did kind of mention that. Now, something we spoke about in the group chat just this morning was generally just about Livy's midfield at the moment. We've got, as Lee, give a shout out to Lee Hamilton. He did kind of talk about outside. He said outside the Old Firm, but I would say Hearts definitely top three. The variety of midfield and the quality of midfield that we have, I think, is really, really high, where we can kind of dip in out and change kind of formulas. So if everybody's fit, who is your starting midfield, do you think?
Oh god. Oh, Jings, that's such a difficult question. Stephen Kelly. I mean, Stephen Kelly's my first name on the team sheet. In terms of the midfield, yeah, Stephen Kelly. Stephen Kelly, Scott Pittman, Jason Holt.
I think it depends on the game, though.
It does depend on the game, but I mean, Stephen Kelly for me is your perfect box-to-box midfielder. He can do the defensive, but he can also get you forward, and he can also hit a ball. Scott Pittman, I think he's slowly getting further and further and further back. In the in the midfield position, originally he was our number 10. He definitely is a number 8. I reckon within the next season or two, he'll be playing as a number 6. He will be a defensive midfielder. Your 6 is your defensive midfielder, whereas right now he's kind of playing central midfield as opposed to attacking midfield. I've been playing lots of Football Manager recently, so
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, and I think Holt just totally solidifies, because again he can do almost what Stephen Kelly does, just a little bit slower than what Stephen Kelly does. So he can do the defensive side and he can do the attacking side. So I'd probably go with those 3 if we were playing three across the middle. I'd probably say Jason Holt, Stephen Kelly, and Scott Pittman. But that's not to take anything away from Sean Kelly. I just think that Sean Kelly doesn't really do. I mean, he does the dirty work. He does a lot of the he's like the he's like the fast food worker of the of the Livy team, in terms of he's doing the job that stereotypically no one else wants to do. He just sits in front of the defense and just fucking gets rid of the ball. That's all he does. Doesn't need to be skillful. But I think arguably, Stephen Kelly's dead balls are actually better than Sean Kelly's. Certainly when Sean Kelly started taking them initially, at the beginning of the season against Hibs, I think I was like, "Whoa, this boy can do something with the ball." But then I saw Stephen Kelly and I was like, "Oh, this boy can whip in a good free kick. This boy can whip in a good corner." So yeah, and again, there's not to say that I don't rate Sean Kelly. Sean Kelly's a better starter, I think, than he is a player coming off the bench as well. So, so if I was to put Sean Kelly in, I would take out Holt. So maybe Sean, Stephen, and Scott. There you go. The 3 S's. The 3 S's. The 3 S's. Security.
Yeah. I think Sean actually had technically had a shot on target from that corner. The keeper actually had to make a save. It kind of the wind.
Maybe that was the shot on target that Sky Sports told me it was. Maybe.
Unfortunately, very unfortunate that is actually a shot on target. So that just kind of goes to show what the game was fucking like. So.
Well, actually, quickly, what would your midfield be?
Yeah, tricky one. Like I said, depends on the game. I think if it was if we're talking about the midfield 3, I think I would have Stephen Kelly in some maybe. You know what? I think I'd maybe even drop Pitts, to be honest. I think I'd maybe have Stephen Kelly in there, and I like Omiyonga for what he does. I just don't like him going forward. And I really like Jason Holt. So I think maybe if I were going for a 3, I would think Stephen Kelly, Omiyonga, and Holt. I'd like to see at least have a go. Sean, like you said, does the dirty work. He got his quite a good delivery. Just not got much pace to him. Pitts, I've just not seen the best of him for a while. He's such a great player, and when he's in his right positions, he's been great. But again, I wouldn't say an amazing season from him again. So, but then Stephen's been playing really well too. I don't know. It's so difficult because we do change it up so much. But I would go for that. So I'm actually, that kind of brings me into into the next point. We're going to talk about just going into the Hibs game. What do you think we need to do differently to beat Hibs? I would say this is a huge game for Europe now. Obviously, we posted in our run of games coming up. Really, all winnable games. Hibs are picking up a bit of form. We're at home. We haven't really performed that well, including from the Inverness game, which was really poor. we've had a bit of knock for the last kind of 3 games.
Yeah.
Rangers is a different story because you're playing Rangers difficult. Aberdeen obviously are a good side. What do you think we need to do differently to beat
Just
Hibs
go
on
back
Saturday?
to exactly what we did in the first game against them in the beginning of the season. I mean, at the end of the day, they've lost one of their best players, Martin Boyle, the human submarine. He's out, so we don't really need to worry much about pace. Kevin Nisbet's come back in, found a little bit of goal scoring form, but then, as far as I can tell, Hibs, they've kind of they're picking up scrappy wins. They're not really like relying on Kevin Nisbet at the moment. Just kind of going back to like how we played against them at the beginning of the season, press them high, start off the game really, on the front foot as fast as we possibly can. Try and get a couple of early chances, really kind of knock them for a bit. Because I wouldn't say they necessarily improved during the transfer window. Let's say they necessarily weakened, but I wouldn't say they really improved. I think making sure that we get like balls in behind and just kind of chase the game from the, not necessarily chase the game, but chase the game from the beginning. Don't hang around for them to, don't sit and wait for them to set the pace of the game. We should be setting, this is Livingston at the Tony Mac against the Hubs. We need to take the game to them, not wait for them to decide how the game's going to go. So a nice wee. I would happily take a preferably a 2-0, but I'd give my left arm just now for a 2-1, as well.
I don't think they have much pace at the back now. I think with Porteous leaving as well, using Bruce, using Newbley getting in behind, hopefully Bradley, obviously he's been taken off a little bit and maybe formed.
I think Bradley will
a
have a bit
little
of a point to prove
maybe.
as well.
Yeah, you probably want to play against Hibs and rip them up a bit. And I think the way Hibs play, I think we will be able to play some better football instead of, it will be at home. It will be against a team that will attack us. We can catch on the break and stuff like that. Guys like Stephen Kelly, Pittman, they will kind of come into their own. Omionga, obviously, who, breaking up the play, breaking up midfield. Will he be back for
I
Hibs,
don't know.
actually? Is it 2-game ban?
Second yellow card, single game ban, I think. I think straight reds are 2. So he should be back at least in contention. I don't think he would start, though. I don't think he would start against Hibs.
Yeah, maybe.
I reckon it'll be Sean Stephen. Ooh, Sean Stephen. Pitts is going to play. Pitts is always going to play. But it might be like Sean, Pitts, and Holt with Kelly playing like on the wing and Bradley maybe on the bench. That sounds like a plausible start. But you never know until the lineup gets announced on Saturday. You never really know what's coming up. So I'd be surprised if we played a back 5. I would be very surprised if we started with a back 5. Anyway.
No way. I'm hoping that Boys has played a little bit, and after Io not really being at fault but can be involved, he just goes back to that and to try it again because it seems like a winning formula.
I'd like to see us get into like a comfortable winning position where we can maybe see a little bit of DeLucas, but I think the only way in which he's going to get onto the pitch before the end of the season is if we're up 3-0. Or before like the split, before we're kind of guaranteed, if we're going to be in the top 6 or if we're going to be in the bottom 6. I think that's the only time we're going to see DeLucas. I think officially we're safe from relegation.
It's the same as Boys.
I think officially we're safe from 12th and 11th. I don't think we can finish any lower than 10th now, points wise, unless we go into administration again. I think, yeah, and I genuinely think that we will be okay, because after Hibs, I think the run of games that we've got between Hibs and the end of the season is like, for us, is like, holy shit, what a run of games that is to like really put our stamp on for the rest of the season. So Hibs is going to be a difficult game on Saturday, but
No.
I think if we start the game well, I think we'll come out good. Come on,
Levy. Okay, Sunday at the Tony Mac saw Livingston win 2-1 against Drybrugh, albeit quite a difficult game. Now, myself and Owen weren't at the game, but I do have some notes from our resident ladies' man, Thomas, who is unable to make it tonight. So, overall, I think quite a slow start from the ladies. Obviously after the draw last week, maybe a bit of pressure kind of building up, and Drybrugh seemed to defend pretty deep and then actually kind of catch Livy on the break, and I think generally just kind of lacked a bit of creativity and struggled to kind of break them down, which is naturally quite difficult, when you're maybe a little low in confidence just from the week before, pressure of it all. But Owen, you did see the highlights, and you kind of mentioned about the Drybrugh goal was pretty well taken. After that, but would you fair to say that after the goal from the highlights, it did look that Drybrugh kind of struggled to kind of keep on and maybe push for a second?
Well, I think they did have a really good opportunity. I think when it was 1-1, Charlotte pulls off a it's kind of like a double save. I think she pulls off a good save to begin with, and then I think like the rebound is kind of just hit straight at her. But yeah, I mean, it certainly looked to me as though the Livy were very much in control of the rest of the game. A couple of chances fell to Ashley Elizabeth, but just kind of the maybe just a little bit too much zip on the ball. Balls seemed to be played just a little bit too quickly, but then obviously as we'll talk about, the result ended up going our way. But yeah, I mean, certainly from what Thomas was saying, and checking the updates on the game and stuff like that, it sounded as though Drybrugh kind of really fell out the game after they scored, and Livy just kind of took the reins, as they say, on the telly. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it definitely kind of made it obvious that the kind of subs, they kind of changed the game, a little bit, and definitely made Livy a bit more kind of imposing. But again, seemed kind of struggled to kind of break them down, especially when you look at the kind of the goals from the highlights from the other games the past few weeks. A lot of Livy's goals that were coming from quite free flowing football. It was kind of like
they can really play some really, really good football. And it's great to see using like the space out in the wings and stuff like that, getting balls into the box, whether it be fired across the, like they mix it up. It's not just like back in the old days, your number 7 would get it out in the wing and it would be like a high floated cross to the striker on the penalty spot or whatever. It's like smashing balls across the face of goal and looking for like second balls and things like that for when they fall. The football, just I really, really, really need to get down to a game or a few games, hopefully, for the rest of the season, because I don't think the highlights aren't obviously going to do it as much justice as actually being able to see the full game as it actually plays out. So just unfortunately my job doesn't allow that.
Yeah, I know. But albeit, after you said that, Livingston did score from literally a wide player getting out wide and crossing the ball into the box. So, like I said, maybe a little bit different to what we can.
Oh, that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a segue.
A segue. So, it did the first goal. Great ball in. To go back to basics. Kind of just that was about time. This kind of got the ball in. It did hit the post and going in. It was it was a bit of a squeaky finish. But if it goes in, it goes in.
It was kind of like almost the ball was a bit like a balloon like when you kind of hit a balloon and you don't know, it bounces off things, but it seems to bounce completely like against physics. So it just kind of seemed to bounce everywhere and then end up in the back of the net. But yeah, again, the build-up play was just brilliant for the goal, and then obviously that was kind of the catalyst for Livy to be able to go on and grab another one.
Yeah, Jess Murphy, incredible header, and a really great header, really great finish. But I think it just goes to show, I think if this was last season, Livingston would have lost or drawn that game. It feels like the depth in the squad, the belief that not just kind of going for this. If Plan A doesn't work, then that's it. Or conceding another. There seems to be different options going through with the different levels of squad, the different styles of players. They were able to come off and win a really tricky game. I think you would agree, and that's as the cliche in football. When managers, that's what winning teams and championship winning teams do. They grind out these really, really tricky games. And so I think it's great to see the development in the squad. It's great to see that, even when the games are a bit shite and they're not playing that well and they struggle to break a team down, they get the victory in the end. So brilliant, ladies. Well
I think
done.
sorry, just one wee point is like consistency as well. Like consistency in the lineup and consistency in the players that are playing week in, week out as well. I think that's got to play quite a huge part on the success, as well as like Paul's going to know the players that like he knows their strengths, and he obviously knows not just the Livy team strengths, but also having played against all these teams previously, and I'm guessing he was doing a little bit of scouting here and there for the games coming up against the other teams. You'll be able to suss out what team is going to be good, but like you have that core consistent lineup almost every week now. And yeah, as you say, like even the squad depth when some of the ladies can't make it means that there's always going to be a quality player to get thrown in to the lineup, and it's not going to change much on the park. It's going to just be again consistent performances, which is key. I just wish the men's team was as consistent as the ladies team at times.
I know, easier said than done. So the ladies are up against Renfrew on Sunday at New Western Park at 2:00. If by all means you fancy something to do on Sunday and want to go through to Renfrew, I'm sure the ladies would really appreciate your support, as it's another kind of top of the table clash. But well done, ladies, and I'm sure we'll be celebrating another victory next week. Okay, up next is our last feature of the night, is another round of Livy Guess Who. Last time I was victorious against Thomas Froh. Get it up, that dog licking man. And then basically my next opponent is Owen Innes, who I think will be actually really good at this game and is definitely going to choose some wank player I've never heard of, but we'll see. Okay, Owen, are you ready to be defeated by the lanky man of Livingston?
The chances are I probably will be defeated, because when I listened back to the episode and I was trying to guess who it was, I just kept screaming at my radio, Steve Lawson, Steve Lawson. It must be Steve Lawson. And then I was like, no, none of this actually adds up to being Steve Lawson. So I was completely wrong on both accounts. I never guessed either of them.
Oh well, the pressure's on. It's definitely harder when you do it in person. So we'll see. Hopefully, I've learned from last time. Okay, right. I will go first then, and I'll ask the first question. So, does your player play in the most recent squad?
No, he does not. I'm going to repeat back that same question to you. Does your player play in the current squad?
I hope this is not a recurring theme, but no.
Okay, no problem. Here we go.
Is your player a well celebrated player by the fans?
No, I wouldn't reckon so.
Okay.
Is your player currently still active as a player?
No.
Okay, so retired. Okay.
Is your player Scottish?
He is, yes. So is your player from the was it 2001, 2002 season, the season where we finished third in the SPL?
Yes.
He is, okay.
Is your player a midfielder?
He is not a midfielder. I'm just going to base this purely on what it says on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Is your player Scottish?
No.
Okay.
Is your player a striker?
He is a striker. Okay. Did your player play for any other Scottish teams whilst he was an active player?
Yes.
Okay.
Is your player in the playoff season?
In the playoff season, that is
Like,
a very good question.
To come up to the Premiership?
Oh, no, that is a good question. All right, we need to go here. We need to go on. So we got through on 17-18 playoffs. Right. He was technically part of the squad, but he was out on loan for the majority of it. Did your player, or does your player have ginger hair?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's my first guess out.
Technically, I'm loan. If you fucking wank, you've made it well
He
hard.
he definitely played a bunch of games for us. He's quite a well-known. So there's a wee clue I'll give you. He is quite a well-known player within the Scottish game. Like, you'll recognise his name immediately.
Does he play in the SPL now?
Does he play in the Premiership?
Yeah, sorry, SPL.
No, he plays lower league.
You don't need to give the answers. You're being
I'm
too
just guessing.
Okay.
And did I ask what position you're? And I didn't. Is your player a midfielder?
Yes.
Okay.
You're Scottish. The plays in the lower leagues now. He was at. Did your player score a lot of goals for Livingston? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Yeah. Is your player currently a coach at another Scottish side?
No.
Okay.
Is your player at Dundee?
My player is not at Dundee. Right, so there's my two original guesses were Nathan Lyons or Barry Wilson. So
you thought it would be Nathan Lyons for me, but
yeah, that's immediately what I thought. So he's a midfielder. Is he like well known within the Scottish game, or yeah, is he well known within the Scottish game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck, man, I'm running out of questions. I just don't remember. I just didn't follow that season that well. It just was bits and bobs for bit results.
Well, the
The
oh
first
no,
division.
you didn't even.
I didn't start going to games again since I realised I had friends until the playoff.
All right, so the playoffs. Again, man, you're gonna know this guy. Trust me, you're gonna know this guy.
I know. Just my line of questioning.
I've mentioned them a few times.
Of course you have.
Do you want? Do you want me to give you another clue? Because I kind of want you to get it.
Okay.
In a way.
Give me one more clue.
So he started his career at Hearts.
Oh, I will know this.
That's the biggest clue that I can give you.
Callum Elliott?
No, he wasn't with us permanently.
That was it.
He signed a permanent deal and then fucked up. Have we interviewed your player on this podcast?
No.
Oh, what? That's Steve Toshett.
Remember, he's not Scottish, mind.
I didn't ask you if he was Scottish, did I?
I think so.
Fuck, I did. I did ask you that. I don't remember. Right, okay. I think I've got like one. I think I've got a guest coming up.
Okay, cool. Played for Hearts. No longer. I feel like I'm being stupid. I think I will know it as well.
Played for Hearts. Still plays in the Scottish tier. Like he's still in. Christ, what league are they in? League 2. So he plays in League 2 just now.
Really struggling, man. Scottish, plays in League 2, was on loan that season before. I'm really struggling. Pass. You've got a guess coming up anyway.
So I've got one more question, and if this is a no, I'm kind of fucked.
I'll give you a clue if it's no.
Did your player play in the 2004 CIS Cup final?
Yes.
Right. You sure you don't want another guess at mine?
I honestly don't even know like what would even help. Generally, I really don't know that like.
Yeah. Right. Fair. If it's that season. So my guess is number 14, Lee Makel.
No.
It's not Lee Makel.
No.
But he played in the fucking CIS Cup final.
Midfielder is not Scottish.
Midfielder, not Scottish. Played in the CIS Cup final.
You're going to be raging. It was.
Are you going to tell me it's Burton O'Brien?
Don't think out the box. Think in the box.
Think in the box. Midfielder. Who the fuck played in midfield that day? Did he come on as a sub?
Absolutely not.
Started.
Definitely started.
Midfielder.
Are we safe to call this?
Played with us in the fucking SPL third division season. And played with us in the CIS Cup final. And
CIS
it's not
Cup
Lee
final
Makel.
and played, yeah, when we first came up to the Premiership, he played then, and he played in the CIS Cup final. A really big player for us. He's not been on the podcast.
4, 5, 6. Dorado, 7. Fernandez, 8.
He's played for other clubs in the SPL.
Oh, I don't doubt it. 9, 10. I am going to regret this, but I'm going to pass on yours as well.
Cool.
15, 16, Lily, 17. Oh, I think I know who it is. Mr. Australia. And Mr. Australia from the Ammon View, for the Ammon Vale podcast.
Yeah.
Stuart Lovell.
It took you so long.
I had to go through every fucking squad number from that season to fucking remember. I was like, I got to Derek Lillian in 17. I was like, oh, fuck's sake.
Stuart Lovell.
Stuart Lovell. Right, okay, so drum roll. Ooh. Dale Carrick.
I would never got that in a million years. Thanks very much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out our previous episodes that include interviews with Livingston legends such as David Fernandez, Barry Wilson, John Guthrie, Sean Byrne, and many more. Check out our social media. Twitter and Instagram is @AlmonViewPod. Facebook and YouTube, just search for AlmonView Podcast. And make sure to subscribe to wherever you stream your podcast to be notified about when we drop new content. Forza Livy, hope to see you all next week.